Hey movie fans! Today we have everything from fake cars to unexpected studio locations and how Paul Walker's untimely death affected the movie making. Do you know those awesome scenes where Dominique jumps from one car to another? Well, it turns out he wasn't doing anything that cool in reality. In the behind-the-scenes footage, you can see him sitting in a fake gray car surrounded by green screens. Yes, no real roads or cars involved. The whole car jumping sequence was actually done on a computer. The car Vin Diesel was in wasn't real. It was just a stationary computer-generated CG car. The talented visual effects, VFX, artists worked their magic to make it look like a legit muscle car. And according to Polygon, they did it without any big issues or noticeable mistakes. That's definitely some serious skill. And guess what? This fake car scene isn't a one-time deal. It's rather common. Owen Shaw did the same trick for his scene. It's surprising how little these actors actually get on real roads, even though the movies are all about crazy car action. But wait, there's more to how they make these movies. Behind the scenes, they actually used film tricks. Let me give you an example. We have all seen the hanging scenes where the characters are hanging and jumping from buildings. Well, surprise, he wasn't really hanging off real buildings. Stunt directors used wires and cables to keep the Vin Diesel safe in the air. Also, that entire scene was in fact shot in a big green room. If Tom Cruise were in the Fast and Furious movies, he might actually be hanging on for real. But Vin Diesel does things differently. Even though it looks scary and cool in the movie, when you see how they do it behind the scenes, it's safe but not as mind-blowing either. Moving on, do you know some of the scenes in The Fate of the Furious were supposed to be shot in Iceland? But production team managed to film in Atlanta. The studio had this gigantic blue screen, the biggest one the franchise had ever used at that time. It was pretty cool how they transformed a room into an Iceland backdrop. They had fake snow and these huge blue walls around the corners. How the final scene came out, surely the special effects team did a good job. Yet for the snow scenes in Fast and Furious 8, some of the shots of Dom driving in the snow were really actually taken in Iceland. And the magic of editors made it all come together seamlessly. For 260 scenes in the movie, they had to make sure the performance for the character Brian was just like how Paul Walker would have done it. They started with Paul's brothers, Caleb and Cody, to create the basic performance. This helped the filmmakers direct the lighting and editing, and also let other actors do their thing. After each setup, they took pictures of the facial expressions from 8 different angles. With this, they could make a digital version of the performance. But even though this was good for timing, they always had to go back to Paul's original performances. They always checked the old Fast and Furious movies to keep the details as accurate as possible and make sure the character stayed exact same to how Paul played it. They used those to understand how skin reacts to light. They looked at how it changes with different expressions or if someone is tired. They made this happen with help of Paul's brother's scans. They needed this flexibility to recreate Paul's character in any situation. The goal here was to keep Paul's legacy alive and give fans the movie that Paul would have wanted them to have. In the end, it was all about making sure the new performance matched up with Paul's original creation of Brian. They wanted to honor his work and give the fans the Brian they deserved. In the movies, there are a lot of scenes where they're shooting from a moving vehicle. Sometimes, it looks like the bad guys are on a truck shooting at the crew, who are also on a moving vehicle. But doing that for real would be really tough and risky, so the actor are actually at the back of a moving rig that looks like a truck. Like rock, since it can move, it gives the appearance of bouncing around a moving vehicle. There's also a fan blowing air to make it feel like there's motion. They filmed all of this in front of a green screen, and that later, VFX team add in the city scenes. That's how they make it look so real. Not all the cool effects in movies happen the way you might think. Let me break down what really happened behind the scenes. In Fast and Furious 6, the initial heist scene in Moscow was shot in London. The shots inside the cars were filmed in front of green screens. Pretty obvious, right? The cool drone shots with CG cars were added in later. Talking about Wembley Stadium and a London street race scene, it fooled us into thinking it was all in London, but it was actually shot in 6 different locations across 3 cities. London is busy, and only a few streets can be closed without causing chaos. So they had to film different parts of the race on the same stretch of road. VFX artists then digitally replaced sections of the streets to make it look like different roads. They didn't stop there. They fooled us with London streets that weren't really there. They used CG cars in drone footage and crash sequences. Every single car used in the movie was scanned and photographed to create different digital versions with varying amounts of damage throughout the story. The whole movie is filled with subtle VFX we didn't even notice. Obviously, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson isn't really jumping out of an armored truck onto the flipped car. That's a visual effect. But did you catch the CG smashed glass in one scene or the tablet screen that was just a green image with touch points marked on it? The effects were so extensive that almost every shot had some sort of addition, augmentation, or adjustment. Over 1,800 visual effects shots from 12 different VFX vendors and over 1,000 VFX artists from 6 countries kept us believing in the crazy stunts and unrealistic storylines of the Fast and Furious franchise. As the Fast and Furious movies kept going, they aimed for even more exciting moments. But did you know that the saga's crazy action scenes started early on? Let's go back to the first sequel, Too Fast, Too Furious. One of the big action scenes involves Brian and Roman crashing their car into a boat. It's not the most massive stunt, but it's pretty cool. You must have wondered if it was real or done with help of CGI. Well, it was a mix of both. Before attempting the stunt, they spent about 3 months planning it. The stunt coordinators drew the whole thing on paper and then created a digital version to see how it would look. Special effects supervisor Al DeSario explains that they used a cable-off type of stunt, where they towed the car into a ramp to get the speed needed. Now, flying a car into the water isn't as simple as it seems. They had to make sure the car wouldn't sink. So they removed the engine, added a bottom part to make it float like a boat, and used a special rig to collide it with a boat rigged with explosives. Once they did the real destruction, they used CGI to bring it all together. Crashing cars into boats is cool, but it's nothing compared to the massive chase sequence with a bank vault tied to cars in later movies. You might think the vault chase in Fast 5 was mostly computer stuff because it looks so complex and dangerous. But guess what? The filmmakers not always rely on that, and in this scene they used a different and complicated dia. Seeing stunt performers dodging a speeding vault is pretty intense, but steering the vault past pedestrians, even trickier. Here's how they did it. The prop team took apart a pickup truck and put it inside a fake vault. This way, the driver could have some control over the vault, swinging it around corners and driving it like crazy. Now, the driver had a tough job dealing with the scorching temperatures inside the vault. It got so hot that he almost passed out a couple of times. But that's nothing compared to the bikers who risked their lives falling off their motorcycles. Bikes don't get as much protection as cars or trucks, so the stunt coordinator, Jack Gill, and his team had to be really clever. They welded 2 little places on the bikes where the performers could put their feet. This way, right before hitting the vehicle, they could push hard and get their knees above the handlebars. Unfortunately, one guy had to go to the hospital after a risky stunt. He didn't get off the motorcycle quick enough, dug his shoulder into the car, and broke it. Maybe using computer stuff would have been safer after all. Who knew that epic car chases and daring stunts involved so much behind-the-scenes creativity? Feel free to share your feelings in the comment section below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more of such content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.